Millions of people flock to amusement parks each year to be scared out of their wits.
I believe extreme rides are those amusement devices that really push the envelope of human creativity and imagination, that push you to the edge of danger but don't quite let you go there.
In these parks, travel sickness mixed with absolute terror adds up to fun.
It really conjures up all of those emotions and feelings that really make you feel like you're out of control, but you know you're not out of control.
It's heart-stopping, heart-pounding.
When you ride it, you get that intense feeling and you just want to ride it like over and over and over again.
Each new ride that's developed must be farther and faster. In other words, more frightening than the last.
The state of extreme rides today is the best it's ever been. You know, virtually the sky's the limit.
They continue to get bigger, faster, wilder, scarier, more intense.
They're pushing the envelope, pushing people's imaginations.
If you have the stomach and the nerve, hold on for a tour of the world's most extreme rides. America's 450 amusement parks attract 300 million visitors a year. Most are looking for fun, many are seeking thrills.
Thrill, fear, and fun. It's all the same. For someone who really likes rides, you know, you want to have the fun, and a lot of people, you can't have fun unless you have the fear.
For them, fun comes from total fear, the illusion of being in danger at high speed.
An extreme ride is a ride that will give you a huge adrenaline rush, and it will give you a concept of risk, even when there is no risk involved.
Before exploring the very best extreme rides, here's a brief look at a few of the newest and latest. Busch Gardens in Tampa Bay, Florida opened Rhino Rally, a four-wheel drive off-road safari. In Allentown, Pennsylvania, Dorney Park opened the Talon, a coaster more than 3,000 feet long and 130 feet high.
With today's technology, you're finding that with roller coasters we can now do more things. We can now create a flying sensation, a diving sensation, things that you can do on a roller coaster that unless you're a pilot or a skydiver, you can't get anywhere else. So that's why you're seeing an increase in extreme thrill rides.
In Branson, Missouri, the Silver Dollar City opened Wildfire, a sit-down coaster that travels at 66 miles an hour over woods and hills. Six Flags Over Texas in Fort Worth came up with the Titan, the longest ride in the state. The steel used in its construction was enough for 16,000 cars. The cars travel at 85 miles an hour, climb 25 stories high, and drop down at 61 degrees. Not to be outdone, Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey opened the tallest and fastest traditional steel coaster on the East Coast. The 80-mile-per-hour Nitro has open-air seats that take riders 230 feet high. Then it hurtles them into extreme maneuvers that include a 215-foot first drop. And in roller coaster vernacular, highly banked horizontal flat loops, an S-curve and a high-speed hammerhead. In an attempt to meet that demand, Deja Vu was opened at 3 places at once: Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California, Six Flags Over Georgia in Atlanta, and Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois.
You'll zip down 90 degrees through the station at 70 miles an hour, loop through a boomerang, a loop, back up on your back, 200 feet straight into the air. You feel like an astronaut as you're climbing this thing. It really takes roller coasters to another extreme because you truly get a forward and backward sensation, thus the name Deja Vu.
Meanwhile, Six Flags Marine World in Vallejo, California, and Six Flags Great America in Illinois opened V2, Vertical Velocity. The shuttle coaster rockets riders at up to 70 miles per hour up 15-story towers. Paramount's King's Dominion in Doswell, Virginia tried a redefinition of extreme with its hypersonic. It uses compressed air shock absorbers and rubber tires to reach 80 miles an hour in less than 2 seconds.
The whole idea of coming to a park or going on to an extreme ride is the feeling that you're escaping from everything else and you're away from the mundane and you're doing something very special. So it's a real rush for a lot of people.
Now let's visit Mitchellville, Maryland to explore our first extreme ride. Here, a new machine is designed for virtual flight. Soaring 115 feet high, along 3,340 feet of steel track, at more than 50 miles an hour, through a horseshoe inversion, a vertical loop, a pair of corkscrews, and 4 180-degree flips. And all of this faced lying down.
Yeah! Batwing, Six Flags America! Absolutely extreme! Woo!
Batwing cashes in on a desire shared by most children and not a few adults.
Man has always wanted to fly. And we've always tried skydiving, the sky coaster to some extent, an extreme ride, you're flying. But you really get the sense of flying on the Batwing. It's a flying coaster, you're laying there, you can put your hands out.
The position adopted by Superman, only with more than a few strings attached.
Everyone, when they're growing up, will pretend at some point that they fly. And other coasters have attempted to really create that sensation, but the way you ride those in the seated position, it's close, but it's just not there. With this one, the way that you ride it, the sensations that you feel, I think it's the closest way to feel that you're actually a superhero and flying on your own.
The Batwing ride begins with visitors boarding the 24-seat train 4 abreast and facing backwards. Each one is fixed in securely with thorough but reassuring restraints. And then it begins with a stomach-churning 115-foot climb, lying on your back, head first and looking straight up.
Right now we're at the highest point on Batwing, 115 feet in the air. This is the turning point where the riders take flight.
At the top, riders are inverted by 180 degrees. Now they're flying.
It's like almost a religious experience when you turn over. It's unlike any other roller coaster experience I've ever had. Once you ride it, you're riding in a laying down position. For some people, it's quite frightening. I thought it was an absolute rush. I've been on 422 different roller coasters in the United States and Canada. I've probably ridden Batwing close to 75 times. Batwing is the most intense roller coaster I've ever been on.
For one man at least, the novelty of Batwing never fades. For him, it's the closest he's ever likely to get to another, more ambitious dream.
I've always wanted to hang glide, but I'm kind of chicken about stuff like that and parachuting and stuff. This, I know roller coasters are safe, and it's a thrill to be able to have that hang gliding or flying experience and be on a roller coaster, strapped in, nice and tight.
So how does Batwing make upside-down flight possible? The first indication comes with the cars. They're not in the usual configuration.
The guest restraint system begins with a shoulder harness that was borrowed from Formula One racing. Once we lock the rider in, they no longer have control of the release mechanism here. It's monitored by the computer throughout the course of the ride. We then are able to take the vest and provide a snug fit to each guest independent body style, and the belts will lock down, provide a firm fit. Like most coasters, we have the standard three-wheel design, which allows the coaster to stay on the track in any position that we put it into. But we really change from there compared to the other coasters. We start with the lineator, which is the electric motor and piston combination, which will raise and lower the guest carrier unit as it enters and leaves the stations. On the back of the coaster, you can see the two junction boxes. We've taken a panel off one of them for you. We actually monitor the safety sensors on the attraction while the ride is in operation. This box contains 23 sensors, which are monitoring the safety systems for the 4 guests in this seat right here. The sensors are not only on the track and in the station and throughout the ride, but we have 88 sensors on each train, bringing a total of safety sensors on the ride to well over 300.
Let's take a ride on Batwing with Sam Marks, the man who by now should know it inside out and upside down.
Oh my God, here we go! Yeah! Wow! This is incredible! Dropping down the first drop, up into the horseshoe, which is an almost inversion, dropping back down. Flipping under a back for the most extreme part of this ride, the vertical loop. Oh my God! You'll never experience G-forces like that. Flipping back over to the flying position. We're coming around to another wide turn into the flying corkscrew. Whoa, yeah! Unbelievable. And to finish this ride off, a low flying helix. Whoa! Yeah! This is incredible. Flipping up into the brakes. Batwing. Batwing is Six Flags America. Absolutely extreme.
There are people who need thrills, just like people need horror movies and people need comedy, people need a drama to cry or whatever. Then acrophobia just makes sure that you're scared of heights, even if you're not.
If you have a fear of heights and wish to confront it head-on, then try the new ride at Six Flags over Georgia. The 250-acre park has just launched a new way to frighten the pants off its visitors. You can't miss it. It's 200 feet high straight up.
Acrophobia came about as a result of some folks getting together and saying, you know, we've pushed roller coasters almost as far as we can push them. Let's look at something a little different and see if we can find a new experience that can replicate the thrill of a roller coaster, but can do it in a different way. And thus, Acrophobia was born.
Located on the outskirts of Atlanta, Acrophobia is the first free-fall drop ride where riders don't sit in seats, they stand with their legs dangling free. Nor does it go straight up. The platform spins at a full rotation on the way to the top to allow visitors to enjoy the view.
But what makes this ride unique among other drop rides is when you get to the top, you know you're going to drop, but as the seat comes a little forward a few degrees and up to 15 degrees, you know, most rides you drop and you go feet first, but here you're looking down, and that can be scary.
When you're 200 feet in the air, and looking straight down 200 feet, it feels like you're 1,000 feet in the air. You're sitting there for what seems like an eternity, waiting on this thing to drop, looking at the ground 200 feet below you, and wondering if it's ever going to drop.
I'm scared.
And I can tell you there's no sensation like looking straight at that ground 200 feet in the air and watch that come up to you in less than a second. It just creates an adrenaline rush like none other.
Oh my God.
Screams are a great sign on thrill rides. We know that we've accomplished our task with a thrill ride if we hear screams.
In the business of defying gravity, technology is all. The ride has to be safe, fun, effective, and scary. The ride's creators, Intermin of Switzerland, designed Acrophobia with a lift system that can lock and release a 65,000-pound seating ring. The harnesses keep riders safely in their positions as 4 AC drive motors rotate the 30-passenger ring on its way up to 200 feet.
Acrophobia does a 360-degree rotation. Guide wheels such as these are what maintains the stability of the ride as it's in a rotation cycle.
The motors drive the ring upwards at 3 meters per second, or 6 to 7 miles an hour.
After the passenger ring reaches the top of the ride, the computer gives a signal to the pneumatic cylinder here that creates the 15-degree tilt.
The lift system holds riders suspended and tilting out at the top. The suspension seems forever, but in fact is only for 20 seconds. Then the ring's released and gravity takes control. Passengers plummet towards Earth at 60 miles an hour. So what stops them?
Well, it's the basic magnet principle where you have eddy current, where you have the north and south poles. And what this does, we have a series of magnets that goes through these brake fins.
Intermin designed a magnetic braking system. Brake fins lining the base of the tower are made of a mixture of steel and copper. The magnets in the ride's braking system are naturally repelled by the copper element.
The actual brake fins, what changes the braking action of the passenger vehicle is the increased amount of copper that's added to the steel material. As you come down, that increase of copper keeps increasing, which in turn gives you the slower and slower speed of the passenger vehicle. It gives to a nice soft stop. These are permanent magnets. They stay in their permanent state, and it's totally fail-safe. There's nothing feeding this as far as electrical power. It's purely a mechanical magnet installation.
Before the braking, the ride creates 3 G's of force. The greater the G-force, the greater the G-whiz. It must have something, otherwise people like Robert Nagy wouldn't keep coming back for more.
I've ridden Acrophobia quite a few times, and I guess because I'm somewhat of an extreme ride fanatic. I had quite a bit of experience with Acrophobia. As opposed to sitting at a desk, plunging 161 feet is a nice way to end a day. We're twisting and turning up a tower which is approximately 200 feet tall. When we get to the top, we're going to angle out even further so we can see the ground coming, and we're going to drop at 61 miles per hour, 161 feet. The horizon is beautiful from up here, but this is definitely a scary and a very extreme ride. And it's a very freaky experience, and here we go. It's going to be an amazing, amazing journey, and I'm scared. And what a wonderful view you got from up here before you put to the end! Ah! Oh my God. Definitely an extreme thrill ride.
Another recent addition to the battery of extreme rides is located at Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California. Ghost Rider defies its old-fashioned appearance. The 118-foot-tall structure is denser than most of its kind because California's earthquake safety standards require double the supporting structures than typical coasters built in other parts of the country.
Ghost Rider has 2.5 million board feet of lumber. When you're riding the ride, it gives you that feeling that you don't know where you're going because of all the lumber and the turns that are in the ride. It keeps you on your toes, keeps you guessing.
Extreme Ride fans include Ghost Rider on the list because it's 4,500 foot long, longer than most, and is filled with non-stop drops, turns, twists, and bends.
Ghost Rider is an extreme wooden roller coaster. It starts out with a 108-foot drop. Right into a sharp left turn, back over a hill again, almost as high. Back down another drop and over a sharp banking left turn. This turn drops out back into the structure where you don't have a real good perspective of where you're going, so it's kind of a surprise where you end up. Come back out of that into a sharp right turn and go back above the station. And from there, you drop back out from above the station and do practically the whole thing over again, with the speed maintained pretty much throughout the whole ride.
The amount of wood in the structure actually helps the cars to maintain the 56 miles an hour speed they reach on the first drop for the rest of the ride. The structural sturdiness actually conserves the energy and speed of the trains. At the same time, the flexibility of the wood creates a different physical effect for the riders.
This ride is pretty smooth. It's a wooden coaster, so the wood absorbs some of the shock from the train. And the structure also gives a little bit. It absorbs some of that shock, so it keeps it pretty smooth.
Smoothness and safety go hand in hand. Each morning before the ride is open to the public, the track undergoes a maintenance and safety inspection.
Typical morning, there's 3 of us that walk the track. We break it up into sections and carefully go over the structure and the track itself where the train rides, making sure that the turn is smooth, there's no bumps, no broken bolts. You want the rider to have a good riding experience on an extreme ride. Anytime you have that kind of speed, you need to keep it smooth.
Keeping it smooth since its opening in 1998 has kept Ghost Rider in the top 10 rankings among coaster enthusiasts. The builders Custom Coasters of Cincinnati, Ohio, created a ride that does not begin immediately with a lift hill like traditional coasters. First, it drops into a small ravine. Then, riders are treated to 14 hills, 10 crossovers, and 3 bridges, while experiencing 3 Gs of pressure. There's no let-up, and no getting off until the end.
One of the reasons the ride feels so fast is there are no trim brakes throughout the entire ride, only at the end when you come into the station, just to slow you down enough to bring it to a stop in the station.
The fact that Ghost Rider is a wooden coaster adds to its appeal.
I think wooden roller coasters are scarier because you hear that creaking of the wood and it just looks more man-made, I guess, and so it has that more risk factor of like, you just kind of think it could just crumble, which is really scary.
Ghost Rider can be scary enough in the daytime, but it's even better at night. Particularly in October. Knott's realized the potential of Halloween scares almost 30 years ago. Its annual Halloween haunt has become so successful at attracting the crowds that other parks across the country now run similar fright nights.
Halloween is becoming an event that increases in popularity. It's the second largest holiday after Christmas. Halloween Haunt is an environment that they know that they can come out and be scared. They know that the scares are built to have fun, and that's what the industry tries to provide.
The haunting begins at nightfall, and then adds fog, ghosts, and monsters into the mix.
They have about 700 monsters that come out, and you basically come to get scared, the wits out of you.
Monsters lurk behind every corner on the ground. And to board the Ghost Rider, visitors have to go down a haunted mine shaft.
I think Ghost Rider is definitely appropriate during haunt because it's an extra scare factor. You know, you're not just getting scared, you know, with monsters and stuff, you're getting scared with an extreme ride, so it's great. Here we go!
Mandy Murray is our guide for an extreme ride aboard Ghost Rider at night, to find out why she thinks this is one of the wildest and scariest coasters in the West.
Oh my God! Ghost Rider reaches the maximum speed limit of 55 miles an hour, but for some reason it feels a lot faster than that. Here we go! Yeah! Here we are at the scenic part. This is the best part. You can see the whole park from here. It's great. Here we go down another drop. Yeah! This ride is extreme during the day, but it's even better at night. Because it seems like at parts, you can't even see where you're going. Yeah! Here we go down the Camelback, which is a series of hills. Ah, yeah! Here we just went through the helix. Woo! All right, that was extreme.
The park's Steel Phantom roller coaster opened in 1991. Hurtling riders down its 225-foot drop and into multiple loops plus a corkscrew, the Phantom soon made a name for itself in several top 10 coaster lists. But in the year 2000, Kennywood thought the unthinkable. It would tear down the Phantom and replace it with an even scarier ride.
We needed a new marketing pull. We didn't have any land available to build a major new coaster on. So we decided that it was time to remake the Steel Phantom, and what emerged was Phantom's Revenge.
When I'm riding this ride, I feel like I'm flying. You're going so fast down those hills. You can't help but feel the air in your face. So exciting.
This 3,500-foot long coaster takes riders 16 stories up and then drops them 160 feet before shooting them up and down a second, even longer 232-foot drop right through the arch of another coaster.
You go down through a natural ravine, hitting 85 miles an hour. It's almost impossible to keep your hands up because you don't think there's any way you can make it through that second coaster. Bottom of the hill, make an 82-degree turn, come back around and go through it again. My favorite part of the ride is at the very end. There are a couple of bunny hills that get you out of your seat. You don't think anything else is coming because you're near the end, but it keeps going all the way through.
Kennywood was opened in 1898 as a small amusement park offering traditional family entertainment. It soon introduced some of the most extreme rides, like the Sky Coaster and the Pitfall Drop Ride. And when the Steel Phantom opened in 1991, its 80-mile-an-hour speed made it the world's fastest roller coaster. D.H. Morgan Manufacturing was hired to redesign and make the Phantom as the Phantom's Revenge. D.H. Morgan had a history of making world-class hypercoasters, including the record-smashing 318-foot, 95-mile-an-hour Steel Dragon at Nagashima Spa-Land in Japan. Enthusiasts define a hypercoaster as a coaster that exceeds 200 feet in height. The first hypercoaster was introduced in 1989 when Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio opened Magnum XL 200. Hypercoasters like Magnum typically feature an out and back configuration, meaning they don't have loops to flip riders upside down. Instead, they offer towering hills, drops, spirals, tight turns, and bursts of airtime that bounce riders out of their seats. Because there are no flips, hypercoaster cars don't require over-the-shoulder harnesses, so riders can experience more freedom of movement. Since Magnum, the popularity of the hypercoaster has steadily increased. In 2000, Cedar Point introduced its record-breaking 310-foot-tall Millennium Force, which it calls a gigacoaster because it exceeds 300 feet in height. The appeal of the hyper or giga coasters harks back to the past.
For so many years, if it was a steel coaster, the designers and the park people, and even the fans to some extent, felt that you had to do loops, you had to do all the corkscrews, you had to do all these various elements to turn you upside down because you could do that with steel. But through the years, if you look back, the real coaster fans and the real coaster designs, the classic coaster designs, have come from wooden coasters of the past. And that basically is what the steel coaster industry has done today. With their hyper coasters, they've taken you high, they've dropped you, they give you speed, they give you sharp bank turns, but they're not putting you through loops or inverting you. And to some extent, that's an extension of the old out and back woodies of the past.
Park owners have found that with hypercoasters, customers keep coming back again and again.
Extreme rides today have to be rideable, first of all. We are a business. We have to be able to attract multitudes to our parks and sell them a product that they enjoy. And therefore, the rides need to be rideable in addition to being exciting and full of attractions and very intense. Phantom's Revenge is very much that. It's very dramatic. The first hill is exciting. The second hill is even better. It probably defines white knuckle excitement. But it's also very smooth, and it's the kind of ride that we felt was important for us to put in this year.
In the autumn of 2000, the reconfiguration of the Phantom began. Kennywood knew from experience that it was a risk worth taking. In the 60s, the park had refashioned the Pippin into the Thunderbolt. That ride today still ranks as one of the world's top 10 wooden coasters.
Well, we thought that we could probably apply the same principle to the remaking of the Steel Phantom. And what emerged was a blending of the two rides. We kept the best parts of the Steel Phantom, and frankly, we kept the parts where a lot of the capital investment was. The incline, the safety system, the station.
The designers, D.H. Morgan Manufacturing, added new elements, but kept the 160-foot first drop intact. The park also wanted to retain the coaster's famous second drop that delivers a run through the Thunderbolt coaster. It was one of the greatest challenges for the construction team. Parts of the Thunderbolt and the ravine and hillside had to be pulled down and rebuilt.
We decided to take out the inversions of the Steel Phantom, which we felt would increase ridership if we did that.
Without loops, there's less chance of riders being scared off, or if they ride, getting motion sickness, and therefore more chance they'll go again. With no need for over-the-shoulder restraints, all new trains were installed. The ride's conclusion includes a helix that delivers 3.5 G-forces.
Did we get any feedback when we announced that the Steel Phantom was coming out? We got tons of feedback. We got emails, we got phone calls, we got hate mail, we got tons of letters saying, how can you do this? How in the world can you take out the Steel Phantom, a top 10 coaster? But you know what, we stayed the course and our plan was good, and what emerged was a great roller coaster.
That they can make the Steel Phantom any better, but this is a great ride, definitely a top 10. Here we go, the first drop. Oh my God. Here we go, up the second hill, 232 feet, through the Thunderbolt. Woo! 85-degree turn. Make another turn going back through the Thunderbolt. Here we go. Catch the bear right here. Here we go. We have a little double dip right here. Whoa. Oh, catch a lot of air. Making the last turn. Back into the station. Coming on, ride it!
How extreme is extreme? In December 2001, Fuji-Q Highland Park near Mount Fuji, Japan, unveiled the world's fastest coaster. Dodunapur, made by S&S Power of Utah, propels riders from a standing start to 107 miles per hour in less than 2 seconds. Back across the Pacific in Valencia, California, Six Flags Magic Mountain brought in the year 2002 by offering a revolutionary coaster unlike anything else on the planet.
It's actually, the train is different than any other trains. Well, you're spinning, so it's like, how can I describe it? I never seen a coaster like this. This ride, and they took it to the extreme. It really did. Come on, look at the drop, man. Like if you're facing down, you're just like skydiving, man. You're like free falling. You don't know what's coming next, because sometimes you're like spinning backwards or forwards, 360 degrees. Like, and then the speed, man, it goes fast. And you feel the rush. Hopefully I'll get to try it again. Like, woo, you know?
The name of this unique scream-inducing machine, X, as in extreme.
X is the first of its kind, fourth dimensional roller coaster, meaning for the first time ever, riders are going to sit on the outside of the track as opposed to above or below. So what that means is, while you're sitting on the outside of the track, you're going to be spinning 360 degrees, forwards, backwards, you're going to be upside down, you're going to be right side up, you're going to be diving, climbing, looping, spinning, flying, all 76 miles per hour, all over the course of the entire track.
From a business standpoint, the X coaster is where thrill rides and extreme rides are going to be going in the future. What X shows is the convergence of all the thrills that you come to know to escape everyday life. Being flipped upside down, being dropped at a steep angle. All these things is what X is.
To stay ahead of the competition, Six Flags Magic Mountain likes to maintain a record of offering more coasters than any other park. X makes 15. It's also earned a reputation for being innovative. The world's first 360-degree steel looping coaster, the Revolution, was built here in 1976.
We were the first park to introduce a coaster that traveled 100 miles per hour in Superman the Escape. And now we're the first park to introduce a coaster where you can sit on the outside of the coaster track. I think X is truly a glimpse into the future. I think it's a ride that's revolutionary and way ahead of its time.
Long ago, coasters like the Wild Mouse types spun riders 360 degrees laterally. But X became the first to rotate 360 degrees forward and backwards. Such complex acrobatic maneuvers along 3,600 feet of twisted track are accomplished thanks to a unique 20-foot wide vehicle design.
The way we accomplished turning the seats on this ride is another big point of difference between X and any other roller coaster in the world. You can see that we have 4 rails on this roller coaster. Every other roller coaster in the world only has 2. The yellow rails are just like any other ride in the world. It's what supports the vehicle and allows it to travel along the track. What's different are the purple rails. The purple rails we call the X rails, and they control the rotation of the seat.
The variations in distance between the purple rail and the yellow rail trigger the seat to spin.
This assembly right here is called the X-Rail Carrier. The X-Rail Carrier is a set of wheels that's attached to a gear rack. And as this space opens up, the X assembly moves up and down, forcing this entire gear rack to move up and down within the chassis. The spinning of that chassis gear allows the entire seat to move forwards and backwards 360 degrees. A misperception on this ride is that the seats spin randomly as it goes throughout the ride, and that's not the case. They are only moved from one position forward or back as we vary the position of the X rail to the yellow rails. Another design characteristic that makes this ride very unique is the fact that it has both the elements of a suspended coaster track design and a traditional roller coaster track design. You can see over here, the vehicle will ride on top of the track like a normal roller coaster. And then behind me over here, you can see where the train is suspended underneath like a suspended coaster. And you don't see that. You either have a coaster that's all suspended or all traditional, but you don't see them mixing both of those elements within the same ride out on the course of the ride.
You're never going to find this many coaster elements packed into one ride, into a 2.5-minute thrill. It's simply something you'll never forget.
Woo! You gotta try it, man. It's just an extreme rush. So, if you wanna feel the drop, man, come right here.
We're about to leave. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, we're about to experience the first twisting front flip. So get ready. Here we go. Here comes our first drop. 89 degrees angle. Oh yeah! Woo! Here comes our first Raven loop, which is not a finished loop. Here comes our Raven loop. Woo! Oh my God! Oh! We're flipping. We're flipping. Oh my gosh! I can't believe this. Woo! Wow, 76 miles per hour. Can you believe this? Oh my gosh, here comes our first backflip. Our first backflip. Here we go. Whoa. Whoa. Oh my God. Our second Raven loop. Here we go. Whoa. Our next backflip. Here is our backflip. Woo-hoo-hoo. Wow, ride is over now. What an experience. Man, this is an extreme ride.
X marked the climax of the battle among parks to introduce the next best extreme machine. Here's a preview of what's ahead. Paramount's Kings Island in Cincinnati, Ohio is producing Tomb Raider, an interactive adventure ride based on the computer game and feature film. Interactivity is also the key to the attraction of Hershey Park's new roller soaker. Riders can drop 16 gallons of water on unsuspecting guests in line below. And the guests underneath can retaliate with massive water cannons. At Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio, they're erecting an innovative launching coaster. The Wicked Twister will be 215 foot high and cars will travel at 72 miles an hour. Batman Dark Knight at Six Flags New England will be a flawless coaster. Riders seated on flying chairs will rocket at 55 miles an hour through 7 powerful series of loops, turns, and twists. Meanwhile, Six Flags Over Georgia in Atlanta unveils their version of a flying coaster, Superman Ultimate Flight.
Future of extreme rides? It's a good question. I think each year we continue to raise the bar. The standard gets higher. People, our riding public, I guess, expect more from us. They want more thrills, more intensity.
The future of extreme rides is extremely good because, thankfully, once some people conquer one extreme ride, they're going to want to go on to something else. So there's always going to be a need for engineers to develop new and even more extreme rides. And as long as there's something else to go on to, the future of extreme rides is very, very good.